The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to John. There was a wedding at Cana in Galilee, and the mother of Jesus was there. Jesus and his disciples were also invited to the wedding. And when the wine ran short, the mother of Jesus said to him, "They have no wine." Jesus said to her, "Woman, how does your concern affect me? My hour has not yet come." His mother said to the servers, "Do whatever he tells you." Now there were 6 stone water jars there for the Jewish ceremonial washings, each holding 20 to 30 gallons. And Jesus told them, "Fill the jars with water." So they filled them to the brim. And then he told them, "Draw out some now and take it to the head waiter." So they took it. When the head waiter tasted the water that had become wine, without knowing where it came from, although the servants who had drawn the water knew, the head waiter called the bridegroom and said to him, "Everyone serves good wine first, and then when people are drunk freely, an inferior one. But you have kept the good wine until now." And Jesus did this as the beginning of his signs in Galilee, so that it revealed his glory, and his disciples began to believe in him. The Gospel of the Lord. No soldier likes to be stationary and hide behind something. It's easier to move around with the sound system, which is a good one. I can move around. I appreciate that. I think today, 50 years is a long time, and then again, it's not. It's not a long time. Going back to the days of Mother Sienna, Mother Elizabeth, Sister Dominic, and for those that may remember the original Sister Joseph, okay? And then, of course, Emily Mary. A lot has happened. Remember one day, I don't know if I was ordained yet or not, but I was talking with Mother Elizabeth, and she was not having a good day. She asked me if I'd watch The Office for a while. Well, she went to the chapel. She said, "I have to talk to the boss." Okay. Well, so I'm watching The Office, being a good little new priest or seminary, whatever I was, and knock at the door. A gentleman comes in and asks to see Mother Elizabeth. And I said, "Well, she's kind of with the boss right now." He says, gives me an envelope and says, "Give it to her when she comes back." So she came back, I gave her the envelope, she opened it and started to get emotional. It was a check for $13,000. The reason she went to the chapel to pray was she needed $13,000 for something that was critical. Well, that's the way it was back then, And with all the commotion that's going on in the world today, in our country, I don't know how much you're following the politics, but the polarization in the country, the polarization in the church, the terrorism, and this awful thing with ISIS, this terrible stuff, it is good to know that there are still people around who rely totally on God for everything, and who show us it is possible to live the gospel. And living the gospel makes a meaningful difference to everybody who is trying to live it and those the people are living it with. 50 years is not that long a time. In a sense, it's really long, but it's a bunch of 50 years in small increments we call days. And any time any of us dedicate our lives to somebody beyond ourselves, whether we do it through the Lord in vowed religious life, whether we do it through the Lord for the celebration of marriage, it's a constant living day by day by day by day. And sometimes the days are good, sometimes the days are not good. And this is where we turn to Mary. Mary's big line in this gospel is not, "They have no wine." The big line says, "Do whatever he tells you." Well, that's what Mary does for all of us. Do whatever he tells you. Now that presupposes, though, that somewhere along these years of days, we are learning to grow. We are learning step by step to open ourselves to Christ, let ourselves be guided by the Holy Spirit, open ourselves to the other people who are in our life, to our spouse, perhaps to other members of the community, and listen to Mary say, "Do whatever he tells you." And he never says abuse anybody. He never says argue with those who you don't like. He never says that. He says live as I live. Live as I live. Everybody who is in our life has the right to be in our life and the need to be in our life. They need the gifts that the Lord gives us. We need the gifts that the Lord gives them. And this is what you find out, I would imagine, after living 50 years in community. You find out that sometimes the Lord comes in some pretty neat disguises. Sometimes it's easy to see the Lord, and others it really takes a great act of faith to see the Lord. Some people just make us feel uncomfortable. But one of the basic doctrines of our faith is that each one of us is created in the image and the likeness of God, and that has consequences. One of the most profound statements, in my opinion, this far in the millennium, was Benedict XVI, the day he was installed as Pope, when he said, every one of us is the consequence of a thought in the mind of God. Every one of us is important. Every one of us is necessary. None of us is an accident. And while we go on through these day by day by day by day experiences, sometimes it's easy to live that. More often than that, it's hard to live that. Following Christ, whether it's vowed religious life, married life, family life, celibate life, is a constant process of letting go of our need to know, of our need to be in control, of our need to be in charge. And I would suspect that community life makes that clear. As the Lord, each of us is a diamond, and the Lord guides us to the rubbing away of everything that is not the perfect diamond. Day by day, we grow in the love of God. We grow in the awareness of the reality of the Holy Spirit. That Jesus meant it when he says, I will send the Spirit to teach you to observe everything I have commanded you in your specific life circumstances. We are constantly traveling in wonder at God and wonder, how did I get in this position? What has gone on that led me to this? We're not that much aware of grace as things are happening, because God does not have well, we know God has a sense of humor, but God does not have a sense of timing that we like. Most often, we are aware of grace as we look back and see what has happened in the past of our life and realize that is how we got here. So as you celebrate your 50 years of vowed religious life and 50 years of married life, we look back and we see the different times that God has been present and powerful in our life. We can take credit for saying yes. We can take credit for that. We can take credit for allowing grace to touch us. We can take credit for saying yes to the Holy Spirit. Not pride, but credit, because we trusted the Lord enough. If we have trusted the Lord this far in our life, can you imagine what's ahead? It has to be marvelous. As the Gospel said, this is the first of the story of Cana is the first of Jesus' signs. And we look back at the signs of Jesus in our own life and we say, my God, what is coming? It has to be great. The past has been difficult. The past has been enjoyable. The past has been challenging. The present is wondrous, wonderful. What is coming next? We are exactly where we need to be for grace to happen. Because our cooperation with grace, in a sense of God's loving power in our life, our cooperation with grace has brought us to this point in our life. And if God has been with you so much in these 50 years, imagine what's coming.